The MaxPreps game of the week did not disappoint yet again as DeSoto upset Duncanville. A huge upset in the Lone Star State. 49-35. They put up a ton of points. First time since 2016 that DeSoto have beaten Duncanville, and the Eagles move way up to number 7 in our latest MaxPreps Top 25. Bishop Gorman stays at number 1. They're 10-0. They're followed by Chaminade Madonna at 2 and St. John Bosco to round out the top 3. IMG Academy and Modern Day make it a static top 5, along with DeSoto. North Shore, make note here, the only other mover in the top 10. They move up 1 spot to 7. And for more on everything high school football, let's welcome in our guys, Zack Poff and Steve Montoya. Let's talk about this game of the week. We knew that it was going to be absolutely incredible, and DeSoto manages to get the win. Zack, what did you make of the Eagles' performance here?
Well, the thing that really jumped out to me is going into that game through 7 games, Duncanville had only allowed 26 points total throughout the entire season, and DeSoto had 35 by halftime. So the offense was clicking. And there's 2 guys that really jumped out for me for DeSoto, both juniors. Dalen Singleton, wide receiver, he started the game off with a 76-yard touchdown. Duncanville came back, got a field goal, and then Singleton housed a kickoff 95 yards. So that really set the tone early for DeSoto, got the momentum going for the Eagles. And the other guy that really stood out for me was defensive end Keelan Abrams. This is a stud 2025 Purdue commit. He had 5+ sacks in this game and really just disrupted Duncanville's offense throughout the entire game. So impressive win for DeSoto. Duncanville, I expect them to get back on track to close out the regular season. They're going to be big-time players for the 6A Division I state title later this season. But DeSoto really proved that they're one of the top teams, not just in Texas, but in the entire country, with that impressive 49-35 win, snapping Duncanville's 22-game winning streak.
And Duncanville tumbling out of the top 10 in the latest MaxPreps Top 25. Steve, your team this week comes from North Carolina. I want to make sure I'm getting this right here. The undefeated Grimsley Whirlies.
That's right. The old Whirlies are doing well in North Carolina. They're 10-0 right now. They're Conference 4A champs. They're going to head into the playoffs, and they're averaging just about 50 points per game, allowing just 8. They're inside the MaxPreps top 50 overall, and yes, you have to love their name, Grimsley Whirlies, and Faison Brandon, their quarterback. He's a 4-star 2026 kid, and he's putting up big numbers, 2,100 yards passing and 30 touchdowns. He had 5 last week. That's Faison Brandon, great QB. Mitchell Summers, 2025 back. He has over 1,300 yards rushing, 28 TDs, and their defense, like I mentioned, only allowing 8 points per game. They have 23 sacks total on the season. So they'll head into the 4A state playoffs. Watch out for the Grimsley Whirlies in North Carolina.
Might be one of the best handles in all of high school football. Absolutely love it. In terms of the top performances that you guys had this weekend, Zack, you're both eyeing up a couple of quarterbacks here.
Yeah, I'm going back to Texas for this one. Hutto's Will Hammond. Now, you just look at the stats he put up in this game. It was a 66-63 win, so they needed all 8 of the touchdowns that he accounted for.
Woo.
Dude threw for 487 yards, had 4 touchdowns through the air, but he also had 25 carries for a $191 and 4 more scores. And the crazy thing is, Jeremy, is this dude's been kind of doing this every single week. You look at his stats throughout the season, he's thrown for nearly 3,500 yards, and he's rushed for nearly 1,000 yards. He has 49 total touchdowns. And they needed this win last week, too, because it clinched a playoff spot for the Hutto Hippos. So we'll keep the trendy names going. You got to love the Hippos out in Hutto, Texas. But Will Hammond, man, this dude's a straight baller. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was tweeting about him earlier this season for a reason.
Yeah, I'm going to, like you said, a quarterback as well. Wasso High School, Knox Dyson. He threw for over 500 yards this past weekend. He threw 7 touchdowns in the game. It was a really incredible 57-53 win for them. They were trailing 39-22 in the second quarter. They stormed all the way back, and that's I would say a pretty good game. Wish I had him on my fantasy team. 500 yards passing, 7 touchdowns. Looks like he's leaning towards Wisconsin, but he also has Texas Tech and Tulsa interested in him as well. This is the type of game right there that's eye-opening for sure. 500 yards passing, 7 touchdowns.
Well, the way high school football's going, the way you guys are covering it, we may have high school fantasy football at some point down the line. You guys are doing such a good job with it. All right, let's talk about your top plays from the weekend. Zach, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I'm going out in Tennessee for this one. Now, I'll set the table real quick. So Riverdale scored a touchdown here to cut the lead to 24-23. They haven't beat Oakland since 2012. So, hey, Coach, we're going for 2. Ball gets tipped up the air twice. An outstanding job by Braylon Vanderbilt there to come up with the game-winning 2-point conversion.
Whoa.
Braden Graham, the quarterback, tried to fit in a tight window there. They got lucky. They got a turnover on Oakland's ensuing possession. They pulled out the win 25-24 thanks to the great catch from Braylon Vanderbilt.
Yeah, speaking of great catch, Zach, this might go down, in my opinion, as one of the best catches of the season in the state of Wisconsin. Nick Keene, and he just lays completely out for this ball and makes the catch. He's a University of Minnesota Duluth commit. His team won 30-28 to move on to the quarterfinals of the Division I playoffs in the state of Wisconsin. And that catch right there by Nick Keene, I mean, that's up there. Unbelievable grab in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, if you're the DB there, I mean, it's just out of your reach, and then he one-hands it and gets it in. What a catch that was. A couple of really great plays there, guys. All right, let's spin it forward and talk about what we have coming up this week. Zach, a battle of 2 top 25 teams in Arizona.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a saucy matchup in Arizona. You got number 23 Centennial. They're 9-0 on the season. They had that monumental win earlier this year against Chandler High School, and they're taking on a team, Liberty, who some people do think they're still the best team in Arizona. They're 8-1. Their only loss came on the road at Corona Centennial, one of the best teams in Southern California. This is definitely a get-your-popcorn-ready game. The winner of this one will be the number 1 seed in Arizona's open division field. There's studs all over the field, but 2 guys for Centennial to watch. You got Noah Carter, a 2024 Washington commit. Then you also got Kenny Worthy, who's a straight baller on both sides of the ball. And then Liberty's got this saucy quarterback, man, Navi Bruzon. He's one of the most underrated cats in the country. I expect him to have a big-time game on Friday. I'm not going to give a pick yet, Jeremy. I'll come back on Friday, and then that's when I'm going to deliver a pick. But I think this is going to be a one-score game, regardless of who wins on Friday. It's going to be a big-time matchup.
I was going to say, don't get too far ahead of yourself there. 25 versus 23. And based on what we saw this past week, I mean, we had a couple of high-scoring games with some great performances. We could be in for one there. Zack, Poff, Steve Montoya joining us from MaxPreps to talk about high school football over this past weekend. Some top performances, some top players, and a little teaser as to what's coming up this coming week. And be sure, for all your high school sports needs, you're checking out MaxPreps. Rankings, scores, and analysis. Just head over to maxpreps.com.